Hey everyone, welcome back to Professor's Play, the show where you can get just a pixel of deep thinking with mostly nonsensical video game discussions. I'm Professor Phil Chavot, he's Professor John Adams, he's Professor Brendan West, and once again with us today is our esteemed friend and guest, Professor Amelia Chesley.
Hello, hello.
Great to see you one more time. I mean, I see you every day in the office, but it's great to officially see you in this world.
For the last, I may come on again in the future. Maybe,
exactly.
But
we'll talk about
the
this.
last Portal episode.
The final time for now. For now. The end? Question mark. So this is our third series of Professor's Play, and our third episode of this third series. So lots of threes, which is on the Portal, like the Portal whole series, right? So Portal, and Portal 2, because Portal is not Portal 1, right? It's Portal,
just the singular.
So this is the one where we give a full review of the game. So this time will be a full review of the series. So it's spoiler filled. If you don't want spoilers for a 15-year-old game, then don't listen to this. It is a quick play game to play, so go play it and then listen to it. But if you don't care, then please stay. And you should stay anyway. This time we'll be giving a full review of the whole series because we played Portal 1 and 2. We have some fun and deep things to talk about today, including but not limited to our impressions with Portal, some Portal lore theories. Some of them I found online, some of them our own. What we liked and we didn't like, and at the end, an announcement for what our next game will be that we'll be playing. So stay tuned to the very end for that. Okay, so as usual, I want to start asking how is everyone? So let's start with Brandon right next to me here.
I am alive.
I didn't get to say how are you, but sure, I'm glad you jumping right in.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
We gotta be structured.
You didn't
here.
set the timer.
Oh, you're right, I didn't. We're good now. Sorry, I have a timer.
I'm sorry. Would you like to ask me?
How are you, Brandon?
May I answer now?
I mean, that was their cue when I said, how are you, Brandon?
Oh my
Well,
God.
I just want to be real sure that I'm not being rude.
And I thought I was pedantic.
Yeah, seriously.
I am doing well.
Clearly. Amelia, how are you?
Okay.
Yeah,
Hungry?
after this whole interaction, yeah.
1 week left of classes. Countdown.
Countdown has begun for me a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
And John, how are you?
I'm glad you asked.
I'm so glad I asked as well.
What the heck is that?
Yeah, play Wonderwall.
I'm still alive. Doing science and I'm still alive. Still alive.
Full disclosure, John
gotta
told me
go
he was going
grab
to do
my
this
sheet
today,
music.
and I was not super excited.
Be
But
right
you know
back.
what?
We're gonna do it.
Yeah, we're going to do it. So,
Yeah. I only learned it in like 2 days and I'm not that good at guitar, but we're gonna play the whole thing
Stay tuned for maybe some more of this later.
at some point.
Maybe.
All right, so John's still alive, Brandon's still alive, Amelia's also still alive, but doing better than just still alive. I think I'm somewhere in between. But you know, we keep going here. That's what we do. We're professors who play video games. We do things so that we can then go home and play games. So
Work hard.
exactly. Just a reminder of what we did the last 2 weeks. So over a month, we finished Portal, and then hopefully finished Portal 2 or did our best. Today we'll be talking about mostly Portal 2, since that's what we focused on the last couple of weeks. If you want more of an overview of Portal, please go listen or watch the last episode if you haven't yet. Before we fully dive into it, I wanted to say that I feel so much better about Portal after playing Portal 2.
Yeah, you feel a little bit bad about what you said about Portal 1.
A little.
Remorse.
Yeah, a little bit. When I listened to our previous episode, I was like, oop, I was really letting Valve have it here. As you can see my hands. So I don't necessarily regret that, but I do feel like Portal works so much better once it has Portal 2's context. So maybe it is a situation of, we talked about it a little bit, but I have to give more weight to the fact that they were kind of putting this thing out there, seeing if it stuck, and then doing the second part, which was more like what they wanted to do.
Right.
Seeing if it stuck to the wall, just like the white gel, which we'll talk about later. So, you know, we'll get into that a little bit more, how the context helps. But similarly to last week, we'll start off by sharing some common feelings about Portal 2. But before we get to that, I wanted to give the Portal series a quick story overview for those of you who haven't played and want to follow the episode, maybe help you follow the episode a little better. So you wake up in a underground building, and you get given a portal gun by an AI that tells you that they are testing something, right? And your goal is to solve the puzzles in rooms to help them do science, whatever that means. And that's basically the entire first game. At the end of the last testing puzzle, the AI tries to kill you, you escape, and then you kill the AI. The factory kind of explodes, and you're outside.
Yep.
That game ends. Second game starts with you in what looks like a cheap hotel, but you find out that you are actually back in the facility in some sort of
care facility.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
who knows how long it's been, and you're in cryo sleep or something.
Yeah, you're in cryo sleep. No one knows how long it's been. You get awoken by another AI who tells you we need to get out of here because the factory's coming down. You reawaken the AI that you killed last time, or like shut down last time. And then this time you're going through puzzles because the AI is getting back at you. Then you find out that the AI that awoke you is actually, I don't know if betrays you, but like takes over the factory. So you have to find a way to, and then they punish you all the way down to the basement of the factory, and you have to like fight your way back up. By fight, I mean puzzle solve your way back up, shut down that AI again, and then leave. Right. So that's the whole Portal series. Am I missing anything?
She kind of lets you go at the end.
She kind of lets you go.
And
at
that's
the end.
important.
Yeah, and that's important too, and it's something we'll talk about later. But basically, you're stuck in a facility. You solve puzzles to get out. There's an AI that's mean to you. In the second one, there's a lot more nuance there as to what you're testing and why you're there and who's the AI.
But it's still, you're stuck in a facility. There's an AI that's mean to you. You're trying to get out.
Yes.
At a core, that is
the whole thing.
Core story.
So as you are listening to this episode, keep in mind that that's basically the entire story of the game. There's a lot of background lore
and a lot of depth.
And a lot of depth.
Yeah.
Not only just because you're like deep in the earth.
Literally depth. I want to know if the Earth's crust is that thick. Like, if I built a facility that was that deep.
Ooh, the scale.
Yeah, somebody in
that
better math should solve that. I think you'd start to hit lava and
give
magma.
it extra credit to a physics student.
The thing that, again, this is John's journal idea, but I think that what I thought what didn't make it a lot of sense is that the 1950s facility was the deepest down.
Yes.
And I feel like it would have been built, like, they would have moved down as they went.
Yeah, they don't have the technology to mine that deep.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No way.
But they did have a portal gun, so I guess.
That's true, Sam. Yeah. Who knows the technology they have.
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily our universe.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
That's fair.
Universe.
But yeah, so stuck in a facility, me and AI try to escape.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about our one-word expression review for the Portal series. Or Portal 2/Portal series. So John and I had similar thoughts. I'm still going with Overstated Welcome, but we both agree that Portal 2 makes the series much better. Portal 2 fixed and remedies a lot of the issues that Portal 1 had, right? And then to me it feels like part 2 of a single game. So I feel like just playing part 1 or just playing part 2, you wouldn't get the full experience.
Agreed.
It would be interesting to have them cut together.
I think there's definitely
I'm surprised
like a
they haven't done
director's
that
cut
yet.
version.
Yeah.
Because you could do 5 levels of the first one, then get knocked out,
Yep.
then do that as the part 2.
Yeah, I think
maybe in some years for like the 20th anniversary.
Yes.
Isn't that? No, we're like 3 years away or something from that.
Four,
Stop
3, 4.
reminding me how old I am.
None of y'all are that old.
Yeah, I think that there's a director's cut that could happen here, and I'm also surprised they haven't released something that's like just.
Is that why would you
one
call
game.
it for a game? Like for a movie? But
well, there's a video game director. He directs like what happens.
Huh.
Yeah.
But,
You would rather have it be like lead programmer's cut?
No, I'm just. It seems like there's a different
above
term
that, right?
for just games. I don't know. Have they done this with other games?
Yes.
It's like a remaster. Combo.
There's a remaster, and then there's a director's cut.
Remaster implies like the same
Okay,
game,
so this
but with
term
updated
is
graphics.
used for other games
Yeah.
that have been recut.
Recut, yes. They can be remastered also, but a remaster is different from a director's cut.
I understand that.
And a remake is different from a remaster, which is different from a director's cut.
I don't know. I just don't like it.
It's fair.
Can a video game have more than one director? Because I'm thinking of like Liam O'Brien.
I'm sure.
Yeah, big games have a lot of
I'm
directors.
sure.
Okay.
So
they have, like,
it's more of a
multiple
director's
directorial
cuts.
Yeah,
The director's
apostrophe
producers
Yeah,
cut. There's
yeah.
probably some weirdness.
Yeah, I think it's a term that they use for like simplicity's sake because people know what a director's cut is.
Yeah.
But there is like they are essentially directors in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not like setting scene by scene, so to speak, with the actors, but they're setting what's happening in every space. Right? The programmers do a lot, but the directors go back and they're like, we need to do some stuff.
That's interesting.
And you move from programming into directing.
Right, and you also need someone to like direct the voice actors.
Exactly.
And the
You need all
cutscenes.
that cutscenes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised there isn't one where they cut like the first 5 levels and do stuff like what you said, but I'm surprised there just isn't one that's just like I know they're selling them together for a reason,
Right.
right? Because I
They
don't
always package.
Are they
yeah,
now?
always.
Always.
Like since when?
The one I bought was a package.
The one I
but since
No,
I think
I-
since the orange box.
no, I'm just
They
saying
have,
like
they have an orange box that is.
I'm saying
Portal.
it's probably possible to buy them separately, but I'm saying
I did because I bought them a long time ago.
right, but
but
they try to sell them together because they work better in tandem.
yeah,
Um, and
I'm
also
just curious about when
money.
that would have switched over.
I don't necessarily think I don't know if it's switched over because I'm sure you can still buy them separately, but like they when you go on the
They're marketed.
Switch store, it's like Portal 1, Portal 2. Same thing with Steam.
Really,
Like they just have combos. Right?
I wouldn't
I
have
should have
known.
bought a combo, but I bought Portal 1 like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many years ago.
That's the thing I'm saying. Like you can still buy them separately, but
I bought Portal 1
Yeah.
before Portal 2
it
was
just
a thing.
they work so much better together that today, if you are going to buy this game, dear listener viewer, you should buy both.
Put them together.
Yeah,
that's a
it's worth
recommendation.
it. It's
Yeah.
worth it.
Do you want a tie-in where like Portal 1 has a thing of like a button at the end that says go to Portal 2, or do you want something where like it's one continuous story, sort of like a I don't know, like a Portal 1 and 2?
Yeah, where it's
Yeah,
one
one
continuous
continuous
story.
story.
So you
so
do
it's
the,
almost like one game.
yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah, it
Just
should be one game.
Portal
Basically. It goes like
bonus.
the first part is Portal 1, and then
Just
Portal
keeps
2 is
going.
parts 2 and 3.
And then you could like just
And
like an
there's-
abridged version of an anime, you could cut out the extra filler levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go like Portal 1, you do levels 1 through 4, and then like 14 through 19, and then when you get like explode out of the facility, it goes dark, and then all of a sudden you hear Wheatley's voice
Part 3.
or whatever waking you up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like Portal
The
Complete.
cutscenes just
Yeah,
seemed
Portal Complete.
together.
Portal
Yeah.
Complete is a good name for it.
Right? That's what I'm
The
saying.
complete.
Especially since it
Fair
really
enough.
feels that way. I mean,
But then you'd have to do the complete unabridged Portal 2, and then
yeah,
Yeah,
you would hate it.
more money.
that's different.
Just release it as DLC for like an extra $20.
Yeah. So, I much better experience. Faced a lot of remedy a lot of issues, but it does feel like it could be like a one game, right?
Yeah. Are we still doing our one word?
Yeah. So Brandon's was yay for human interaction.
Because of the co-op.
Yeah, because of the co-op. I played the co-op version of Portal 2, as you would have guessed from that, and the difference in experiences was stark. I very much enjoyed Portal 2 way more than Portal 1 because just having like someone to talk to and two minds to like solve the problems, especially if it's someone you know well and like work well with, because I was playing with my younger brother and we've played so many games co-op that we just kind of know each other's styles, that it was kind of great because they could be like, okay, so yeah, I'm gonna put a portal here, and I'll be like, oh yeah, and I'll put a portal here, and we're just building off of each other, and so it's a totally new dynamic that worked really well. I don't know that it maintains that like horror aspect that you were talking about last time though, because it is a lot less scary when I've got someone to have my back. Though admittedly, like one of the very few times I died in this game, it was because of him, and he did it on purpose. So
Sabotage.
Dane Colbert.
yeah, there's
Oh,
that.
yeah.
There's that one
It
puzzle
can be funny.
where you have to like launch through the fan, and so your partner has to like stop the fan. Yeah, he started it again on purpose, just for the heck
Well,
of
you
it.
got it.
I saw a funny video. I think it was on Instagram the other day. That was like Super Mario 3D. I forget which one it is, but it's like basically. It's like a 2D space sort of, but you're like 3D Mario, and you can play 4-player co-op.
Yep, it's the newest one.
Yeah, and I saw like a thing that said like how Nintendo thought this was gonna go, and it's like Mario and like Luigi and I forget what the other characters are on there, like helping each other, like hitting blocks and getting each other mushrooms and stuff. How it actually goes, and it's like all of them trying to grab each other and toss them over their ledge because you can grab stuff and they're like you can just toss them. I did that to a friend of mine when we played once. We're both in the lava just waiting for like the platform to come around, and we're like waiting, and just grab them and toss them over. He's like, dude.
But yeah, the animations
I think
of
he's listening today. Shout out Koji.
the animations when the robots get smashed and die and like have to get put back together is pretty amusing. So yeah.
Wow, like watching robots die.
It's interesting from
Are
like
they really dying? I mean, they're not alive.
It's just
Wow.
a bunch of plastic
still
and
alive.
wires. They're still
Man.
Yeah, but the co-op has like no plot really. It's just
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, it's bonus
just-
levels just for two people,
you're
right?
these two robots. You gotta
And
solve
it,
the
it
puzzles.
ties into the main story though.
It does.
Ties into the main story.
It gets a
Yeah.
shout out.
Yeah.
It's an epilogue, kind
it's,
of.
It's plugged
Yeah.
in the.
It's kind of an epilogue,
near
cause,
the end.
yeah, because when at the end of the game, when Shell is actually able to leave the facility, when the camera's panning away, you see the two robots that are the co-op robots that GLaDOS basically says, these are the test subjects now.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
I
'cause
was
she said I
phasing
made a
out
special
human
test protocol.
testing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause we find she's
because
like,
we're running out of humans, I guess, is the subtext.
Partly
there?
because we're running out of humans, and partly because she no longer gets a dopamine
That's
rush
right,
from
yeah.
human experimentation, and she realizes, we could argue, she realizes the pain, or at least, I don't think she realizes the moral implications of killing humans, but I think she realizes the extra effort and pain and possible heartache it takes.
Yeah, that's her line
think
at the end, is like, trying to kill you is the hard way.
It's too
Yeah,
much
I
work.
think she realizes
I'm
more
done.
like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
There's an easier way, Occam's razor type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, where she goes like, the robots will just do this. I don't need your flesh thing here anymore.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what she is, right? She's running the facility because they don't have any
Gotta
more.
keep testing.
Yeah.
She's compelled.
So we had Oberst It's Welcome, but it's way better. Brandon E for Human Reaction Co-op, and Amelia says more puzzles with extra thought-provokingness.
Yeah, so same all awesome puzzles as the first round.
Better puzzles.
Yeah, and the bits of story that you get from, I don't know, the background, the setting, everything, it makes you think a lot about.
Yeah, sometimes
Why is this here?
I think you wrote this in here, and sometimes like I'll walk into a room, and before I start solving anything, I'll listen to what they're saying. Whereas in the first game, I was like, I don't care, I'm just going. In this game, the lore was getting to me, and I thought it was much better. So actually, let's jump. That is a nice segue here, totally intentional, into what worked for us. So myself, Amelia, and John, we all noted that the story and the storytelling were much better.
Much better.
And what I wrote down is that there's, first of all, a lot more of it, which is my main complaint from the first game, right? That there's nothing here motivating me, so there's a lot more of it. It is similar to Portal 1 in the sense that it's like indirectly told, but like we talked about in Portal 1, or Portal, with the Portal episode, I went into every room and looked for things that would tell me lore, and there was nothing. And in this game, I already told you guys that I found some stuff that like indicated there were some other implications for what happens in the game, right? So there were trophy cabinets with Kate Johnson's name in there, who's a character in the game. He was the founder of Aperture. He is the founder of Aperture Science. He's no longer alive. So I found a lot of stuff in the background, but also there was more voice acting that gave us more information, right? So we found out some stuff. So we found out that, like, we talked about this before, but one of the theories that we were testing because of the founder of Aperture Science needed to find a cure for his disease, and so the portals are a way of maybe figuring that out, right? And that's kind of implied. And there's a lot more stuff that's implied that we're going to talk about later with the theories part, but there was a lot more, not in your face story, but a lot more story happening, and you could find it if you wanted.
Yep.
Yeah. Amelia, you said the story's pretty fascinating. What did you think?
Yeah, it's like you said, indirectly told, so it's not like sit and watch this cutscene of our narrative.
Which you don't like?
Yeah, cutscenes are boring. But yeah, the voiceovers, they're amusing. There's like enough weirdness and randomness that it's funny, but then it also is like, wow,
horrible.
Yeah, the one that sticks in my mind is like, good news, folks. No longer have to have mantis DNA injected into your bloodstream, but there's a new test fighting mantis men, and it's just like, okay,
just go in there and just kill as many mantis men as you can, okay, and then you get to walk out of here.
Yeah,
okay.
So it reinforces the whole idea of like this scientific endeavor with no constraints, no IRB review, nothing at all.
We do what we can because we must.
We do what we can because we must.
Yeah.
Must because we can.
Yeah.
And and then there's the AI characters, Wheelie and GLaDOS too, and their relationship with you. I think we'll get into that later, but that is what made me think a lot about. I mean, their gendered AI.
Yeah, we can get into that now because I have that in here as well. And I have stuff. Well, the theory you want to talk about, but I put in here like AI characters, unlike Portal 1, had clear motivations for what they were doing. So if you guys remember, my biggest complaint for Portal 1 is like, why is GLaDOS petty and doing this for seemingly no reason? We found out why in this game. Because she needs to test. That's her. If she has one prime directive, it is must test.
Well, and it's a prime directive given through torture, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If she doesn't, Wheatley describes it as an itch, because when Wheatley takes over...
she describes it as an
That's
itch.
the name of the
Wheatley's
chapter.
That's the name of the chapter, yeah. She describes it as an itch. Wheatley's talking about it, and she says, if I don't test, I get viscerally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It gets worse and worse and worse. It's almost kind of like vampiric in nature.
Yeah.
Where we're describing it like something that must be done, otherwise.
This primal urge.
Yeah, they fall apart.
Which is weird to talk about primal.
So like they
urges
give her
with
prime
AI.
directive, which is you must test. And it's interesting because the prime directive isn't in the AI's mind; it's on the body.
It's on the body.
So that's why they can't overwrite that, right? Because the body itself is causing
in the hardware.
Yeah, if you want to run the facility, you must test basically.
Yeah, and it's great because when GLaDOS gets separated, she gets put into a potato at one point. That gives her the time to sort of think, introspect, and re-evaluate her life because she's not hooked into this testing infrastructure.
And she kind of finds her
she
own
doesn't
identity.
have the itch anymore, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she can be a person separate from that person.
Which again is this whole like post-structural critique on like corporate culture, right? Like the only way to like really get outside of corporate culture and escape from it is to take a break, unplug from it. Yeah.
And it's interesting because as soon as because Wheatley is an AI character that shows up in the beginning, like I talked about, he's great. Stephen Merchant is the voice.
And he's here to help.
And he's here to help.
He's
and as
so
soon as
charming.
he gets put into the machine, which is like becoming a
cog,
cog,
part of the culture.
He then
He's like,
has the innate traits of the machine in him, right? So it's kind of a commentary on even if you put a good person in this position, they then have to do things that the machine requires.
And it almost
The
becomes
institution.
it almost becomes worse when you put a person
Yeah,
not made for
yeah.
that in there.
Yeah, because he's very
He's an
incompetent.
idiot.
Yes. Yeah.
Very.
As we know, remember I talked about no AI is programmed to be this dumb, and well, it turns out he was.
What are you talking about? We're a perfect match.
Yeah.
Like Holmes and Moriarty, Aristotle, and a giant spike wall.
He was
Oh, man.
programmed. Wheatley was. That's a line from Wheatley when he tries to kill you in the game. Wheatley was programmed to be like an idiot to slow down GLaDOS.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever the corrupted cores we used to kill Wheatley and we used to like take out a GLaDOS are the cores they were putting on her to limit her.
Yes.
Right. And Wheatley was one of those. That's why he knows so much about her. Because he's like, I don't want to wake her up, right? Because like I've been there.
And he was the caring core. He was her empathy, which makes it all the more interesting because some of the other cores are things like restraint or caution, anxiety.
Yeah, curiosity.
Yeah, you pick up one and
anger.
it's like, oh no, should we be doing this? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Wheatley is
Rationality.
the care.
Yeah.
And the care destroys the corporate system when it gets put into the corporate system.
He's the care and the bumbling, incompetent person you have that's nice in the office kind of thing.
Right.
The guy that brings everyone their tea and cookies
Cookies
or
and
whatnot.
muffins.
And she's like, you having a nice day?
Which is great, but then you put that AI in charge, and all of a sudden the factory starts falling apart, and he tries to kill you without the nuance that GLaDOS has, which was like, I'm gonna put you in a room with a bunch of fire. Let's see if you escape. And he's like, spike wall.
Maybe he thinks that's nuanced though.
Maybe
that's
does.
a scarier.
Yeah, which is interesting because I think GLaDOS even says that she says
fun.
something like that, like maybe he thinks he's being subtle. Oh no,
That's worse.
Yeah. So I put in here like since that was my biggest complaint. Now we know that GLaDOS was programmed. She was the founder of Aperture Sciences. This is all new for Brandon, I believe. Founder of Aperture Sciences. The CEO's secretary, administrative assistant, and he's about to die from lunar rock poisoning, which is what you use to do some of the gels in this game, right? So there are like items in this game that make you run faster or jump higher.
For Brandon, the white walls that are painted in Portal 1 are painted with lunar moon rock.
Yes.
That's what makes them portalable.
Yeah.
Lunar moon rock as opposed to like lunar
Yeah.
earth rock?
Yeah.
Lunar
paste?
lunas, yeah.
But it's highly toxic and cancerous.
Yes.
And that's what killed the original founder of Aperture Science.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to figure out a way to get the lunar rock poisoning out of him, and they thought that the best way to do that would be if you go through portals, you can like sap poison out of someone's like body. So that's why they're testing, right? So the reason that GLaDOS needs a test, I believe, is because she was programmed as a prime directive to cure lunar rock poisoning in case they could cure it and bring Cave back to life, kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think it's also just an extension of the throw science at the wall. We're here to do
Oh,
all
absolutely.
this science.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
whatever they were doing.
Absolutely.
Whatever we need to do.
But he says, I'm going to have Caroline run this building even if she doesn't want to, because I think that he thinks that she's the only one that understands what he's going through, kind of thing. Because he doesn't strike me like a man with a lot of things going on for him besides this. based on what he says.
Yeah.
And so we kind of get locked into this
This is his
robot
identity.
hell where
Yes.
the robots are meant to test over and over and over. In this case, we literally have to escape from the bottom of hell.
Yes.
Shocker, we've played Hades again.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Okay.
Let's not. But I think like knowing this about GLaDOS and why she's the way she is, I think that if I had played this game first, I would have enjoyed Portal a
One
lot
first.
more.
It's all the information you need. But that's
Yep.
what I feel. I feel like this game is them listening to me, at least. Like, I feel like this game is almost optimal Portal. Like I said...
Listening to you, like someone...
Yeah, just right now, and then the past.
that's
moving forward. It makes
like
sense.
Like Professor Oak.
Yeah, like Professor Oak.
Yeah.
Pokemon Forever.
They took all your feedback.
They took all my feedback. They said, yeah, we're going to listen to that, and they made Portal 2, and Portal 2 realizes everything that Portal 1 wanted to be. And I even said at the beginning of the Portal 2 episode, I said, I feel like this is the game they wanted to make,
Yeah.
but didn't have the developmental...
Well, we talked because you said they didn't have the money or something. I was
They
like, but
didn't.
they had that. They had the possibility of having that. They just like didn't want to try it.
Didn't want to take the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
And this game they did, and it is, I feel, just about as good as a Portal game could get. You
Yeah.
can update the graphics a little bit, you can make one or two more puzzles, but this is peak
Yeah,
Portal.
yeah. I think
I
so
love
as
it.
well.
Now I'm imagining a director's cut where it's like all the 50s basement, like the like a chronological
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could-
I guess.
Or you could add
Somehow.
in some stuff about, like, in the 50s. That'd be
Ooh.
really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, as the bonus
Portal
to get
3,
you
y'all.
This
Portal
is
3.
what
Portal
they-
3.
This is what they were trying to do in the 50s, and this is why they're still doing it because
You can play as Cave Johnson.
So at the
or something.
just stamping things on desks, making decisions. So at the end of
I'll do
Portal,
anything for more
at the end of
J.K. Simmons.
true. At the end of the Cave Johnson is voiced by J.K. Simmons, and he does amazing as usual.
It's so
As
great.
always, yeah.
And then
It's
in the prequel one, like at the end of the level, you like there's no way of not failing, and that's why we're still playing.
So
Yeah.
it's all tragic.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem coincidental to me that the two time periods here are like 2000s and 1950s, right? Because like horror films in the 1950s are all about science run amok, right? And then so look at it here, you know, you were talking about it as a critique of like corporate culture, but I feel like part of the corporate culture, especially when we start talking about like the military industrial complex, is like science for science's sake.
Yeah.
And this is just like that taken to, you know, the absurd extreme where it's just test after test after test for no real gain.
Yeah,
of any
and
kind.
they actually Cave Johnson actually says that at one point. He's like, we're just gonna we have a test here that we make your blood become gasoline. Why? No reason. We're just throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks.
Throwing science at
Throwing
the
stuff
wall.
at- yeah.
He literally says, which
Yeah, he
is a
literally says
lovely
that.
image.
Well,
But
and you see
yeah.
a resurgence of those same movies in the 1990s, too, because you get Jurassic Park.
That's what
right?
I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And this like critique
Yeah.
of capitalism through the dangers of uninhibited science, right?
Yeah, and it goes, but
Yeah.
it does go through like, and it's interesting to see it's the decline of aperture science, but you're going up like physically up, but the decline is like 50s. Cave Johnson's all excited. We have this new thing.
Yeah.
You like I said, you can find a trophy cabinet, like a display cabinet in the 50s waiting room that's like filled with awards they've
After
won.
Science looks like a very wealthy company.
Looks like a very wealthy
Yeah.
company. And then you move to like past the
Wealthy.
first seal into the 70s, and it's like he's talking about like who do we get to come here? Okay, I guess
Homeless people.
we just get people that like displaced people to come and help us if we
Like,
can.
We'll pay you $60.
We'll pay you $60. We
to
can
destroy
help
your
you.
life.
And that's more than
Um,
you had before.
And that's the stuff that he says in the 80s. Because in the 80s he's like, we don't care who's here. Do this. I need help. And then he gets to the last one where he's like, honestly, man, we don't even know what we're doing here. I just really need you to do this as quickly as possible. Okay?
Yeah, and they ultimately make
Yeah.
it like employees must be
Yes.
test participants.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it
Which
goes
is
from a like
very dark.
situation of science is growing great, we're doing amazing, to like we don't have the same level of test subjects, to forcing people to test because we need to figure this out.
They're
Right? So
employees.
it was interesting like metaphor for how like I think like the curve of science where it's like, wow, look at this crazy thing we just did. Oh, maybe it's not that great. Oh no, how do we solve the thing we just created? Basically?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
problems,
problem that we-
the
Yeah.
and there's so many real world comparisons
And I-
Teflon.
parallels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like how like you can find signs in like the 80s that are like, if you are an employee, you must test unless, and it's like 3 conditions, and all the conditions are like ridiculous. It's like you have perished or something like that.
Yeah.
And then one of them is like, unless you're confident enough in your job that you don't need to test, which just feels like a warning,
Ooh,
basically.
Right.
That's a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me think of, I don't know, all the early 2000s tech companies, like move fast, break things,
Yes.
and then they're like, oh wait, we broke some things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh, Facebook is spreading a ton of misinformation about
Yeah.
Right, because it kind of becomes like a critique of capitalism, right? Like you can picture him as Elon Musk. Like imagine if he had, lunar rock space cancer.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And the extreme extremes that
to
someone
be
with
on
those
Twitter,
restrictions
you
go
now
to.
have to donate your blood
To be the
Right.
extremes that someone with a gajillion dollars would go to like solve that.
Yeah,
right?
where it
And
becomes increasingly like desperate and just sort of
Yeah, and I feel like
meaningless.
it's interesting because I think the parallel here also is that in the beginning, the 1950s Cave Johnson would have been like the thought process. And this is where I think like people, not to pick on Elon Musk, but like people that are in that headspace right now would think like, oh, I have this disease, but we need to find a cure to this for society,
For science.
for science. And then in the 80s, when he's like, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I just need this cure. Like he has changed
Gotta
from
fix this.
science to I need it. I think we would see that as well playing out in the real world. And like it, we see it, but the person who's doing it doesn't see it yet, kind of thing. So it's an interesting parallel there. I'm gonna say something to you guys right now that you guys are not gonna believe. Okay. So remember, I told you I love Wheatley. Steve Merchant's amazing. I do think he becomes a bit much at the end, but as a character, after knowing everything we do, I think I like him less than GLaDOS. I
Obviously,
like GLaDOS
Yeah.
more now.
Yeah,
that's the natural way of
that's
things.
the way it goes.
Wow.
Everyone loves GLaDOS more.
I hate that. Burning passion.
Change is
But-
good. It's a sign of
Because Wheatley
intelligence.
is
Bill.
obnoxious.
Thanks, man. I was watching the Demon Slayer anime, and the guy, he has a whole, like the main bad guy has a whole speech about how like change is a sign of weakness,
Oof.
which is interesting.
But he's the bad guy.
He's the bad guy, but he's also like an unchanging demon for the past like 1,500 years or something. So like
Wow.
he has a point. But yeah. So
Are we siding
GLaDOS.
with demons now?
No. We just changed, so clearly not. But you know,
Hmm.
I mean, I can speak for myself. But
We need
So-
to keep an eye on him.
GLaDOS, better character. I enjoy the character a lot more than Wheatley, although I love Steve Merchant still, and I enjoy GLaDOS from Portal 1 more now that I played Portal 2.
Because
Yeah.
it has all the reasons you're
Yes.
missing in Portal
All the reasons.
Potato GLaDOS is like a really great ally.
Well, I like when Potato GLaDOS is like, oh my god, this is great, and then she just cuts off in like 2 levels later. She's like, sorry, that was too much emotion for my 1.5 volts.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she has like 1.5 volts
'Cause
to
it's
work
a
with in the
potato battery.
potato clock or battery, yeah.
With her whole consciousness somehow
Yeah, I
smushed into it.
Brendan, I know you didn't get to this part, but like, imagine, like, we're not metaphorically speaking. Like, she gets put into a potato
Oh no, I
battery.
got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then she gets impaled on the end of your portal gun,
Yeah.
so she's always hanging there to talk
Yeah.
to you.
And like
Through
when
the
you put her
next,
there,
like,
she's like, "Did
season.
you just stab me?" Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So, Phil, John, and Brendan, we put in here that we like the level design as well. So there are more environmental puzzles, which is my favorite part of Portal 1 or Portal. And I'm glad to see more here. We were going to talk a little bit more about this. They're a little more obtuse, but it still was more fun to figure out what am I supposed to do here. Putting portals in things that are not necessarily designed to have portals on. They are, right, but not designed to have portals on them. Versus, here's a room, solve it. I prefer that. And then you talked about like the levels themselves, all of them in general.
Yeah, and the puzzles were harder, but in a more rewarding way in Portal 1. So in Portal 1, I could figure out almost every puzzle without help, and I could figure it out by just looking at the door and working my way backward, right? Being like, well, that needs to activate to get here, this needs to activate to get
Because
here.
it's a maze at the
Maze
core.
at the core.
Yeah.
Portal 2 had more
Everything's a
things that could have been solved in multiple ways, and I'm pretty sure of that for a fact, because they even make a comment on it at the very last level. They're like, wait, did you solve that the way you're supposed to? I wonder if there's only one way you could have solved that.
It's like,
On
no,
level
I guess that was, yeah.
I guess that was it. That was the way
Yeah.
you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for out. But the ones that really got me were these like spiral tubes, and you said they had a name. What are the names of those?
The Drat, I just forgot what it
execution,
was.
explication.
Excursion funnels.
Excursion funnels.
Excursion
They're
funnels, I
these
believe.
tubes of light that pick you up, and they're like a
They're
tractor,
like tractor beam.
Yeah.
But you can portal with them to move things, and there were a lot of times where you had to like drop a box into a tractor beam, move it across, tractor beam another one up, and then over, and then put it right where you needed to. And those are clever. They were hard, but they weren't unfairly hard.
I thought they were clever. A couple of them that like spanned multiple rooms with only a tiny opening, I thought were obtuse.
Yes.
But the ones that were like a large room and you have to like and there's a tractor beam, like, okay, I gotta move this tractor beam here somehow so I can get that thing there. That was
Right.
fine. I think the rooms, as long as you can see everything, I thought they were fine. The
Right.
ones where like the rooms are separate, and the only reason you can't solve a puzzle is because you can't see what's happening up there.
Yeah, or
that,
you miss
I think,
it because it's
is-
dark, or you
yeah.
miss it because it's like.
But again,
huge.
it was definitely more polished and like better.
Better.
Yeah.
I love that you had to use Wheatley's like horrible maladaption robots.
Oh
As,
yeah.
The turret cubes.
Turret cubes.
They're so creepy.
Yeah, so in the first game you have turrets and you have cubes, right? And the turrets shoot you and the cubes are just weights.
Weights.
In the second game, Wheatley tries to combine them so that the turrets themselves can become cubes that can test. Right? Because he's trying to like replace you
just
as a
become
test
a
subject.
horrible chimera.
Yeah, it becomes a
It's-
literal chimera that's like,
They're
Kill me.
the
It's-
cube
yeah.
shaped, like smashed turrets.
and you
into
can
cubes
basically
with
they look at
little-
you and they're basically like, kill me please.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not.
They're so pathetic.
Yeah, and they like
but,
fall on their back and they can't get up.
like adorable at the
Yeah.
same time.
I really liked those.
They will move though if you drop them in the right space,
Some-
in the right like
sometimes.
direction. They'll move forward, or like
Oh, will they?
yeah. If you don't put them on their backs, they can.
They're a
move.
little twitchy.
Yeah, they're twitchy. Yeah,
Which is-
I
yeah.
know because I put a portal somewhere and I was like, all right, you stay there. I'm gonna go do this over here.
And it's
And
like-
when I came back, it was like 3 yards away. I was like,
Trying
what the
to-
hell? Yeah.
You're not supposed to work.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
function.
So
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, I like those. And then my other favorite part was when it drops you into a room and Wheatley's like, haha, sudden death. And all the robots like point lasers
Oh,
at
yeah,
you,
yeah.
and then none of them fire
It's
or
because
work.
it's the
Because
robots
they're the
that
ones
you
we broke.
Yeah, because at
Because
some
he helped
point
you replace
you help
them.
Wheatley helps you replace all the turrets with broken turrets.
With broken ones.
You go. It's really
foil
it's my
GLaDOS.
favorite level. I think you go. It's really clever. You go into the turret factory, and you replace the template for what a turret should be with a bad template.
Yeah.
So like the factory itself thinks that it's doing a good job, but it's actually just saving the bad turrets. So
I
once
was
you
really upset that it wouldn't let me copy the coffee mug.
oh
That's
yeah,
what I tried to put in
that
there.
would be
Really?
clever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just made coffee
Yeah, I
mugs.
tried to stay. Like, it would be cool if you could like.
I try to stick. I try to go myself in there.
Stand
yeah,
in
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then he drops you into a room that has nothing except 8 turrets, and they all have the same issue. Like
And
they all
they're
don't.
broke.
They don't have bullets. They don't know what they're doing. They can't aim. And I like how they say stuff.
Yeah, they're like, oh, no ammunition.
When
Anyone
they-
have any ammunition?
Yeah, and they're like asking each other. And I like when you're in the level with you're selecting, you're like putting the template in there, and like, because if the machine that's doing this thing, like the machine that's selecting the machines, realize that the turret is broken, it'll launch it into an incinerator.
Mm-hmm.
And when they launch it, then it goes like, oh no, bring it back, oh my god. And then one of them, because it does like template response, and the response has to be hello. And if the response isn't hello, they destroy the turret.
Frozen.
But then the turrets that don't say hello, so like, put me in, coach, I'm ready. And it was like, ready to shoot some people. And he's like,
Yeah.
is that all I'm supposed to say? And then one of them was like, template response. Wait, who said that?
I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah, they
There's a
say
bunch of
Now
really
I'm-
great lines.
they have some really great lines. I
'Cause I
took a
know-
while there because I was like, this is amazing. And then
Yeah.
when you replace them with the good turrets or the bad turrets, and the good turrets get sent back, the good turrets are like, wait, why?
Yeah, I was a good one.
Yeah.
I know that GLaDOS voices the original like
Yeah,
turrets.
yeah. I don't know who does the
But now I'm like, yeah, who does the
'Cause they're good, too.
bad turrets?
So voice acting is something I was going to talk about too because
Oh, yeah.
it was amazing.
So good.
So we kind of just did. And then Brandon talked about the co-op levels for level design. You said it was a thing that worked for you.
Yeah, no, it did. I feel like I kind of already talked about how the
Yeah,
co-op
Well,
works,
how would you compare them to like Portal 1? They feel like
They're more complex.
yeah.
I mean, they require 2 people. Is the
yeah,
main
they
difference.
do. They do require 2 people,
That's the whole
and
point.
Do they require 2 people, or
Yes.
could you solve it with one person?
No.
Oh, okay.
the push to like work together is pretty nice. And
That's good.
it does also mean that like both of you have things to do. It's not one of those where I can sit back and just be like, all right,
You figure this out.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
you
go ahead.
have to work
yeah,
together.
you have
solve
to
anything.
you have to at least participate.
Yeah, which is interesting because John and I talked about this a while back, where like a lot of co-op games are just 2 people in a room and you get to solve the problem faster because one of them figures out before the other one.
Right.
But like Portal 2, it sounds like in the game that I mentioned before called It Takes Two, you have someone else has to do something. You can't be you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's as simple as like in some of the Portal levels, you need a cube to stand on the button for you.
Yes.
And so now you don't need a cube; you have your friend to
fair
stand
enough.
on the button
No
for
more
you.
companion cubes, just a companion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are others that are more complicated than that, and it takes a little bit of like,
We ejected
And
you from
then-
GameCube.
Yeah. Well, we get it back at the end. Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
which is sweet.
So, yeah, and so levels were better. Well, another thing that we not were better, but still worked was the humor. Right, the writing is still phenomenal.
Still tight.
The voice acting is still phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The J.K. Simmons lines. I love Stephen Merchant, and I can tell you that the best voice acting in here was J.K. Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
And GLaDOS was phenomenal,
Yeah,
right?
as
But-
always.
Yeah. But Cave Johnson, his lines are amazing. You can see the enthusiasm being seeped from him as the decades go.
Yeah, and
With just the voice, it's fantastic.
yeah, it's cool to have you point that out because I probably did notice it, but I didn't like notice it. And
Yeah.
now that I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, that performance, like you never see this
Yeah.
person except in an old painting, and then it's like, does he look like J.K. Simmons? No.
Yeah, and it's really hard. Like, it's the respect I have for J.K. Simmons, because to be an actor that's also so good at voice acting,
Yeah.
those are two very different skills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
great.
but he's such a presence.
Yeah.
That character is such a presence, even without literally being present.
Exactly. Like that, the line with the praying mantis is great. The one with the gasolines, and also I was talking to John about this. If you go to, it's like so the rooms that you're in are huge sometimes. And we're going to talk about this, but if you portal to different sections of the rooms, there are different lines for different sections of the rooms.
Yep.
So if
Yeah.
you try to access different doors, it'll trigger different lines.
Yeah.
Well, they'll say like different sciencey things they're doing and stuff like that, which is
Yeah.
a level of care. Because a lot of people will not get to these doors, right, or click these, but they put it in there, which is like this game. Even though I critiqued Portal 1, there was no like lack of care in making these.
No, I think
Absolutely not.
if Valve is known for something as a company, it's the amount of care they
Yeah,
put into it.
thoroughness into these games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attention to detail. But yeah, speaking of the voice acting, and like I think the sound design generally is like superb.
Yes.
And that's not always a thing that I notice. And it takes me a while to notice it sometimes, but the sound cues for the different gels,
Yeah.
that's actually really helpful as a game
Oh yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Cues. And like you said, like certain doors will trigger, and that's kind of how you know you're on the right track, is you're
Yeah.
triggering the next recording from Cave Johnson. So
Yeah, sound design is like something that is fairly new in terms of video game studies, and I know some people a couple of years ago that were working on it, like just master thesis and stuff like that. There's not a lot of citations come from sound design work from like video games or animation, right? And we're starting to build up an area around or a field of study around that. But a lot of this stuff is talking about how sound design in games is unique because it helps you do things.
Yeah,
and
it's
realize
instructional.
things. It's instructional.
Very.
Right.
Queuing. Yeah.
And it's been around since 1987 with like the Zelda da-da-da-da kind of thing. When you open a treasure chest, you're like, okay, I just did something good, right?
You could argue beyond that.
Yeah.
I mean,
For sure.
elevators, right? Bing.
Yeah.
Tells you, hey, the elevators.
Well, no,
are
I
moving.
mean like in games.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
in real life
Yeah.
too,
In
yes.
real life.
Yeah, in real life too. Yeah, so it goes back along, but it's just now that we're starting to like understand because people that make games
Yeah.
kind of just do this because that's how you do games.
Right.
And now we're thinking like, wait, why do we do this? Oh, because this is better than not doing it. And then we're starting to figure it out. Why is that better?
Yeah,
Right.
there's some really good
Soundtrack is
99.
much more varied.
Yes.
Soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, the music.
Which is good. 'cause
The
we
music
get
is
stuck
good.
in a level
I appreciate it,
first.
Because yeah, that tinny remix
Sometimes
of
though,
Still Alive
it was like actually like
got very annoying.
the music was too strong for me sometimes. When I'm trying to think through stuff, and there's just like a boom.
Well,
I'm
you
like,
gotta turn it down.
At the end with Wheatley, where he's chasing you through the factory, and it's like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like,
It does
"All right,
get
I'm trying to
very
figure this out."
intense.
Yeah, yeah.
But then yeah, you feel pressured and overwhelmed, and you fall.
which I think is
to
what they
your
were trying
death.
to do. Yeah, which is interesting. But at the same time, I was like, I wish it was like this is at 11. I need like a 9. It's the same. They have the same effect without the panic.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
I always go in and
Yeah.
turn down the music
Yeah.
slider.
Oh, interesting.
That was good. And that's an accessibility thing as well.
I play with
Yes.
headphones, so I'm the opposite. I like the total immersion.
Yeah.
No, I don't like. I was talking to a student about this the other day. I don't like to feel fully immersed in things, which is a larger discussion.
Wait. Yes. Huh.
Yeah, it's something that maybe I need to speak to the therapist about.
I was
Yeah,
just
probably.
gonna suggest
Yeah,
that.
but full disclosure, just between
That
us
does-
and
that
our
seems-
listeners
And
seems
everybody
like a
online.
and everybody
big-
online, but it's just like I don't necessarily enjoy that for long periods of time.
Huh.
So it doesn't apply to this, so we're gonna roll right past that.
All right.
But
When we get
Moving
to our
on.
VR episode.
VR episode, yeah, we'll talk about
Oh.
that.
I might have to bow out of that one. VR gives me motion sickness.
Yeah, me too. Haha.
Yeah, I mean, I get headaches after like an hour, more than like approaching 2 hours. I get headaches from playing any video game.
Interesting.
Almost.
It's that is a resistance you build up.
Perhaps.
No, I think there's like something with like flashing lights and looking at a screen for very long.
Yeah, just the sensory
stuff
stimulation.
like. I mean,
of
same
it
thing
all.
happens when you stare at a computer screen for very long, right?
Same.
So moving on to what did not work, I'm going to start myself. I have here puzzle rooms still feel like puzzle rooms, which for me is a negative.
I like that. You can't just. I don't like puzzle games.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't like puzzle games. I'm saying they feel too much like tests. Again,
Still.
That's
same
not what
thing.
you said, though.
Yeah.
Puzzle rooms still feel too much like test rooms. And the one thing I didn't like is that they're better, right? There's a little more nuance, but there's still some of them are still like this is only a puzzle because you can't see what's on the other side. Like that's not I don't like that sort of mechanic, right? And I don't like the puzzle rooms where like for you to solve this you have to get here 3 times, something like that, right? And John and I were talking about this. We're like
It gets repetitive.
yeah, like you have to put a gel here to get up here, and then you have to
And go back.
use that to put a gel here, then go back down to put a gel up there, and then and I'm like, no, I don't love that. But I do think they're better. Okay. So then moving on. So myself, John, and Amelia said that the rooms in the back of the facility are more fun, but they're also obtuse and we described it in different ways. So Amelia talked about it being dark, which I agree. Like a lot of times I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at here.
It gets hard to see exactly
Yeah.
where you're going. And then if you happen to pause your game there and not play again for 3 years,
Yeah.
How is that?
then you're like, wait, where did I come from?
Because the rooms are.
And where am I going?
We're calling them rooms, but they're more like
Caverns.
caverns. It's like the Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
Like you're imagine being inside the Hoover Dam, and that's how high the ceiling is.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's some like underground lake of toxic slime
Yes.
that I guess has probably accumulated over hundreds of years.
Yeah.
it's a mixture of all 3 of the.
The gels and
All the
water,
gasoline
all the
blood
gasoline blood, mantises.
Mantis.
When he talked about the praying mantis, I thought we were gonna run into some praying mantis.
Really?
That was fun.
Oh god.
As
we're
like
gonna have to portal them.
the 1950s version of turrets.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
Whoa.
they
Yeah.
move really slowly and stuff, but he can still like move.
I don't think that would have fit the art style. So
I don't
I'm
think so
glad
either,
that they
but I was
didn't do
scared.
it.
Want like little scythers running around.
Yeah, exactly. I was scared. I'm like, I don't need some praying mantises around here. But and then we also talked about how like it requires precision platforming sometimes. Like you have to walk on girdles and stuff like that, and it's dark, and it's not easily done because it's first person, and it doesn't have the game is not built for fine precision controls.
No.
Okay, so this is one of my biggest like gripes with the video game industry in general, and this is a pixel of depth here, and this is something that like there's not a lot of study on this yet, but we should look into it, which is games that try to be things that they're something they're not. So if
Right.
you are not a game that is a precision platformer, then don't make me precision platform. Can't make me solve puzzles. Don't make me do that. If you're not a shooter game, don't put praying mantises in your game that have to shoot, right? Because chances are the controls are not going to be good, and it's going to make me frustrated. So the example I use is this really cool beat 'em up that my girlfriend and I played called River City Girls. It's based on the Kunio-kun series, which is like from 1985. They've had a bunch of games. It's like a spin-off. But it's the same thing. You basically 2D beat 'em up. You go into a space, you beat up a bunch of people there, and you go to the next space, right?
Double Dragon. would
Double
be the one
Dragon.
that people are probably more
Yes,
familiar with.
Double Dragon.
Haven't heard of either of these.
Yes.
Super Nintendo.
Surprise.
So what happens? It's really clever, etc. But one of the levels is you have to get a key from a sleeping security guard, and when you walk into his house is filled with like a kid's toy or like dogs' toys, so like they make noise. So you have to like platform on like his furniture.
It's like a stealth
Stealth.
It's like a
away.
stealth mission.
platform. Yeah.
But the game doesn't. The jumping mechanic of this game is for you to jump and attack, not for you to jump and land on things that are like as wide as you. So it gets really frustrating because you have to like double jump and sprint in like a space of like a pixel to be able to get enough distance to jump there. I'm like, and that took us as long as beating the game basically because I'm like, and you both have to do it. It's a co-op, so
Yeah.
one person cannot stay back because when you get far enough, the camera moves. So that person gets pushed
Pulls you
into
Oh, and they can't.
yeah, and so they have to
See what
come
they're
with you,
doing.
right? So it's like I was like, this isn't a precision platformer. Don't make me precision platform.
So now what games are precision platformers?
Mario.
Mario.
And What is that? The only one?
Mario,
No.
well, that's the famous one. But Mario has like incredibly tight platforming. Like it'll measure it down to like.
So like
Eights
Hollow
or
Knight
something.
might be in this.
Hollow
range.
Knight's pretty good about it. Yeah.
Hollow Knight. Sonic too. Even though you're going fast, Sonic has like you're precisely landing. Like they put things so that if you have the skill, you're landing on everything as you should, right? So
it's with the whole goal of the game is to like punish you if you're not dexterous enough. Or,
Yeah,
Or to teach you.
But
to
the
teach
mechanics
you
are
conditioning.
the mechanics are made
Yeah.
to help you reach that level.
Robot Rainbow
Right.
Unicorn Attack.
Yes.
Sure.
Rainbow
What?
Unicorn Attack.
Yeah.
And Flappy Bird.
Flappy Bird as well.
Bird.
Yeah.
Really?
So, and it has to do with
It's all
Because
about how long you-
aiming
how long-
and
yes.
distances and all of that
It's
matters.
meticulously calculated, and the
Yeah.
way they code the character in the game is meticulously calculated to fit these spaces.
Yeah. And
Right.
yeah, Portal is not like that. And it's mostly not even trying to be that. I guess that
It's not.
of the
It's
design
small. It's
just
small.
leans that way.
Yeah, it leans that way sometimes.
And
I'm
it
like,
can be
you didn't
frustrating.
need this. Because I have a portal gun, so if you want to put the part of the room I need to get to across water, just give me a wall to portal to. You don't have to give me a girdle, right?
it's primary. It's a physics game, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what Portal is. The
Girder
coolest thing is
also.
Girder? Sorry.
Girdle
Isn't
is
it?
Yeah, you're right. Girder.
Clothing. Girdle
Yeah,
is
yeah.
clothing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Girders
second.
are beams.
ESL. All right.
Learning moments.
Yeah.
Language.
A girder. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a physics game. So the primary depth of programming all went into making sure the physics worked behind the portals. That's why you get really advanced physics when it comes to things like throwing stuff through portals,
Yes.
moving stuff through portals.
Yeah, the
moving,
velocity
like,
and everything.
The velocity is crazy
Yeah.
good and accurate, which means that if they would have
Much better in this game, actually.
focused more
Yeah.
on that, you would have been able to, and less on platforming.
And that's why games shouldn't try to do the thing they're not, because you just don't have, unless you are Nintendo making a Zelda game, you don't have the time or people or money to focus on precision of all these different
Make it
things.
satisfying.
Right. So a couple other things here that I thought was interesting, or one more thing. Amelia mentioned the cutscenes. She didn't like them.
I'm just bored
And-
with cutscenes.
So Amelia's bored with cutscenes. She said there was a lot of them, even though it's only an issue in the beginning.
Did
and
I
the
say
end.
there were a lot
Yeah.
of them?
There
I mean,
are.
it felt like the beginning there were a lot of them.
There's like 30 minutes of a cutscene, yeah.
And it's funny because John and I were both like, I barely noticed the cutscenes.
I loved it.
And I think
Yeah.
and I love them, and I think it's a like, because John and I game a lot more than Amelia does.
Yeah.
Or all three of us do more
Most
than Amelia
people
does.
do.
So fair enough. So
I
like,
think.
the fact that we see, I want to say like 5 minutes total of cutscene in this game.
Short.
Yeah, it's like
We're gonna make Amelia play Pokemon Sword.
yeah. I barely
No.
the Pokemon
I
Sword.
am making a face.
Yeah, the first like 2 hours are a cutscene basically.
Every time you move to a different area,
No, and
they have
I
a cutscene.
have
They're not
played-
good cutscenes. They're
Yeah.
just like one kid going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have played games with cutscenes that don't bug me. Like,
Interesting.
I'm trying, like Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West. I love those games.
Maybe
They're
it's because
decent
those are our
cutscenes.
more story-driven
But
games, so
yeah,
you expect cutscenes.
that
And
might
here
be
you're
it.
like, just let me solve my Sudoku.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and it's not that the story, I mean, all the Cave Johnson lines and stuff, that's story, but I can do the puzzle while I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop me in my tracks. Like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of the Wheatley cutscenes, I cannot.
Like
Do
you
that.
don't get to play your game
And
right
there's
now.
And
there's an
then-
interesting discussion.
Yeah,
here in
it's
terms
like
of
someone,
player agency.
yeah,
right?
like someone stole your crossword puzzle and you just have to wait for them to give it back
Yeah,
to
they're
you.
like, you get to solve this, but only after you wait 2 minutes of watching this TV right here.
Just listen to me
Yeah.
be a goofball for 2 minutes. I'm like,
Literally a
No.
ball. That's a
Ball.
goof. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think by law every video game should have to do what the Resident Evil 4 remake does, which is there is just a skip cutscene button.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
most games now
a lot
have
of games
that.
have that,
Yeah.
especially if you're playing the second time, they'll add that option. They know it's in there.
I'm gonna sneeze.
But like the Persona games, you press start twice, which I think is a nice mechanic because sometimes you're like, you fumble the controller and you skip. You're like, oh damn.
Yeah, you have to.
So I like the twice.
Specifically, that's what you have to hold.
Yeah, I think
Does
it's
it
a
do
good
the
idea.
timer wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a good idea too. I do like the ability to skip cutscenes. So I don't
Yeah,
think they
for
have it in here.
replay too.
Yeah.
Like the first time, cool exposition.
Yeah,
The second time, like I don't need this.
yeah.
Let me
Especially
move
if you,
on.
especially if you like get stuck, like right before a boss fight,
Yes.
for example.
Oh yes, that
And then
happened
you
a
have
few
to like
times.
re-listen to that cutscene
Yeah,
every time.
that like is one of the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
annoying things about being stuck
Yeah.
to me. It's like, nope, saw the cutscene like 6 times. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
so the next few times after you've died a few times, then you
Mhm.
make sure to save it right after the cutscene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was just interesting because like I didn't notice them as being a lot, but
Mhm.
it's something about like player agency, right? Where like
Yeah.
it's not. The whole thing about video games is either mimics agency or gives agency. We can have that philosophical discussion at some point. But the idea is that I am still doing things in here, which is a difference from a TV show or from a book, right? A traditional book. But as soon as you give me something I need to watch and can't do anything,
We're now in a TV show.
You're taking me away.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of people talk about how cutscenes actually take them away from the game, which they are in there to do the opposite. They're in there to immerse you, right? To put you in the game, to give you more exposition.
Yeah, get the character.
Yeah, in a way that just playing
story.
couldn't, so to speak. But then it's interesting because when I'm going to say but like video games try to make cutscenes interactive by doing QuickTime events, people usually hate that.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I'm like
Viscerally.
viscerally flinching at
So
just
people,
the word.
and I feel like
QuickTime
there's no way of being in between. Like QuickTime events is really like you're good with them or you hate them, right? So QuickTime events are whenever you're watching a cutscene, dear listener, and then like this happens in Spider-Man a lot. You are Spider-Man. There's a monster attacking you. It's a cutscene, and you press, and there's a button that shows up on screen. You press that button, and Spider-Man does the action they're supposed to.
Or you have to
And if
mash
you,
it.
And if you don't
or
press the button,
something.
that cutscene ends with like Spider-Man getting hit, and you have to restart the cutscene.
Yeah.
Right. So there are things that are done better than others. So one of them is like you just press a button and it happens. One of them you have to mash. I hate the mashing.
Oh yeah.
There are some
It's so
Spider-Man does as
stressful.
well. I like this example because it's more than just like pressing a button, but it's not mashing. So it requires some sort of level of skill where you have to like move the analogs into like spots and then press a button. So it's like more of a gameplay thing. And I am one of the people that like I don't mind QuickTime events. I think they're using well. It's fine. But again, I get that if every cutscene has a QuickTime event, I would just be frustrated as well.
You know, I've noticed like a real cultural shift. Like the original Resident Evil 4, I don't realize I'm talking about.
No, yeah, I know. I was listening about that. They changed that stuff.
Yeah, it had a lot of QuickTime events.
Yeah.
It was the first game I ever played with them, and I
The
actually
dogs
liked
and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but now the Resident Evil 4 remake did away with like 90% of the QuickTime events, especially like the mashing ones, like the one where you have to like
Escape
hit
from the
button
rock.
a whole ton of times.
Yeah.
Those are just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
it
is-
definitely seems like the
And,
culture's
yeah, and
moving
I think
away
it was a shift towards that was like, well, cutscenes aren't immersive because they don't get to play. Let's make them play the cutscene. Then people are like, wait, because a
Not
lot
like
of times
that.
when a cutscene comes on, you put your controller down, then all of a sudden it's like press X 7 times. You're like, oh god, and you're done. Right?
Yeah,
I
not
would also
like
say
that.
that it's strange for me, but I like cutscenes more when the game stars a character that is not me. So like in like Spider-Man, I mind cutscenes less because I want to see what Spider-Man is doing. Or in like The Witcher, like I actually love The Witcher's cutscenes. I love watching those and figuring out what's happening. But if I have to watch cutscenes in a game like Oblivion, where I've made my own character, I don't like it because then it's forcing my character to do things.
And you have
So
no
it's like
control
more
over
removal of
it.
agency. But I'm okay with them removing a little bit of agency for like Geralt of Rivia, who I don't really
'Cause,
own in
yeah,
the first place.
He's a separate.
He's a separate
character.
entity.
So it's a player avatar relationship
Wow.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
it's-
it's player
So there's
relationship.
Jamie Banks. She was my advisor at Texas Tech. So there's a lot of she does a lot of great stuff on this. Avatar Assembles, one of her books, and it's a lot about how we relate to avatars. And this is something I never thought about. So maybe how you relate to Avatar also impacts how you feel about the cutscene. Because then it's if it's a character that you see as not yourself, maybe like I'm not saying that no one sees themselves as Spider-Man when they play Spider-Man, because you can have that
Yeah.
packs that play avatar relationship, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't see yourself as that character and they do things that that character would do, then you're like, cool, QuickTime event, cutscene, whatever.
Right.
But if it's you see yourself as that character and you're doing things that like, well, I would never have done this,
Yeah.
then it takes you out.
Which is why, like,
Interesting.
Pokemon cutscenes are the worst cutscenes of all time. And I love Pokemon, but they're absolutely terrible because not only are they cutscenes that interact everywhere, but they're usually somebody saying something really stupid and then me responding in a way that I would never respond to that, and they don't give you any actual agency.
No.
The yes and no lead to the same result. So this
Yes.
kid will come up to you and they'll be like, "Hey man, do you want to go out
Do you
to
wanna
the
be
town
friends?"
square
It's just
and
a
be friends?"
false
And you're like,
choice.
"No, I barely know you." And then if you say, "No, I barely know you," it'll be like, "Oh man, don't be like that. Let's go."
Yeah.
And then it takes
You're
you
like,
the next
"Damn
one
it."
anyway.
Or like when they're like, do you want to join Team Rocket? And you're like, yes. And it's like, are you sure you want to say that? I'm like, yes. And it's like, ... And then the Team Rocket grunt's like, well, if you're not going to respond to me, and I was like, I did though. I want to
I
join.
wanted to join. They do that all the cutscenes.
Yeah.
There's not a
Weird.
single interaction in a
And
Pokemon game
that-
that makes it impactful decision.
Yeah.
That
Which
makes
is fine.
me.
That's not what the type of game it is, but it is frustrating.
But it shouldn't pretend to give you
Yeah.
choice if you don't actually.
Yeah, that makes me think about the overlap between agency and like consent.
Yes.
And we can get into this.
Because GLaDOS and her consent and
Thinking
your
of some,
consent.
so
and
we're gonna move into some
yeah.
theories about Aperture and GLaDOS, and Amelia has just one about consent and some toxic relationships there, which I just interrupted you, but you can go into now.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
I gotta remember what I was gonna say about this, but yeah,
Do you want me
I
to
think
lead you in somehow?
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Because I brought up earlier the whole idea of consent with. What did I bring up earlier? Sorry.
So you say here, themes of consent and gaslighting and feeling trapped in conditions fulfilling other beings' desires.
Oh man,
before you
yeah.
even get
There's so
having
much
sex.
here, really.
Yeah.
And the first time it like pinged me the first time, and then I kept thinking about it through the whole rest of the game. Is you have Wheatley, and he's like, "Put me in," and GLaDOS is saying no, and then you have to override their impasse of like yes, no. And you do because it's the game, and you have to keep playing the game. But that was the first time, like, Wheatley is disregarding GLaDOS as an entity, as a being, and her consent is meaningless. Like, no one cares. The next time it came up was in one of the Cave Johnson dialogues. He's talking about Caroline's gonna rule this place.
Even if she doesn't
she's
want
gonna
to.
run this place. Don't let her say no. Even if she says no, like, she's the only one that can do it. And I'm like, okay, she doesn't matter as a human who might have wants and desires.
Yeah. Or as an AI, because then she is GLaDOS, maybe.
Yeah, and then I thought about it too with all the keep out signs and stuff, and these boundaries that are like physical boundaries, but then you ignore them, you trespass them. You're like bending reality with these portals to get around the boundaries of the world. So that just seemed like a really resonant theme throughout. And then the itch chapter, we find out about this itch, this prime directive. You have to test. It gives you this euphoria. And was I the only one who's like pretty darn uncomfortable at Wheatley's reactions?
Super uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, it was
When
like
you saw the
pseudo-sexual.
test.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would go as far as to say that it's beyond pseudo.
Yeah, it's
Like, it's in between overt and pseudo.
Well, I think I
It's,
only say
like,
that
right
because
there.
if somebody had to ask me if that was a drug high or a sex high, I wouldn't be able to 100% place it. If they're going after like a heroin or a sex.
I see what you're saying.
It's just a large
but,
dopamine release.
Yeah, it is the closest to explicit you can get.
It's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Without being,
and then I think the genderedness of these AI
Yeah.
comes into it because of that.
Yeah, why did
You
they make
have
them
to-
gendered?
I mean, I don't know how much they thought about it, but I mean, you said earlier Valve is careful and attentive
Yeah.
to these things, so they probably thought about it at some point. And then there's the whole, just the patriarch in general, Cave Johnson, astronaut hero, and all the cores at the end with Wheatley embodying some aspect of this masculinity, toxic
We're
masculinity.
gonna go to space. Yeah.
Like, I will conquer everything because I'm a man.
Yeah.
Which
And
that one is okay.
Basically says that.
Which that one is
Yeah.
more okay because we're looking at it very much from a critical perspective. Like at no point in the game are we supposed to think like,
Oh yeah.
Cave
Yeah.
Johnson is good guy, but Wheatley's a little bit more gray because
Yeah.
they make us friends with him at the beginning of the
No,
game.
Yeah,
and-
he's the nice guy.
And we talked about this. Does he betray you? I don't think he betrays you. I think he gets put in that body, and that body has a prime directive that now he has to follow.
But that doesn't excuse
still
anything
betrays
that
us.
he
No,
has done.
I don't think he excuses. And that's why I don't think it's a betrayal. I think it's he switches sides, but I don't think it was like a
Not
I feel like-
premeditated.
not premeditated. That's the word I'm
Yeah,
looking
second
for.
degree betrayal,
Yeah,
for
second
sure.
second degree betrayal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it still counts.
Cousins. They're-
And he's
yeah.
still, like, especially throughout that last two chapters overall, he gets so unpleasant
Yes.
and gaslighting. There's this one monologue during the final fight, and he's like, I see what happened. It's all your fault.
Yeah.
You found me and tricked me into doing all this, and oh.
Yeah.
And that just, it calls to mind so many real world parallels again.
From
of
this is
how
like
this can
08?
happen.
Like
Mhm.
this is from what game? This is from like 08, right, or something like that. 09.
At least 09,
So
10.
this is a game that was doing this, and we're in 2023, and we're like, wow, I see what they're doing here. It's like, wow, they were doing this 15 years ago, right?
Well,
Yeah,
because
I mean,
the
'cause
victim
it's not
mentality is
new.
the victim
Yeah, it's not new.
mentality is a
Exactly.
constant.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Which
he's
is
this
sad, is
nice
what I'm saying.
guy,
Yeah.
male presenting AI,
Yeah.
who's like, I'm just trying to help you. And then he gets what he gets out of you testing for him.
Yeah.
Satiating his desires.
Without your consent, also.
Yeah,
and you are a female main character.
Yeah, and GLaDOS and Shell are female characters, so is it different when it's GLaDOS who's getting me to test for her? Yes and no, maybe.
Maybe. I think now what I know from this one, looking back at Portal, yes. And I think GLaDOS is a little gaslighty, but not as much as Wheatley.
Yeah, and we could map this onto, like, there are plenty of women who buy into the patriarchy, and they're like, I will smash whoever to be part of this system.
And also, GLaDOS has been doing it for hundreds of years, too.
Yeah,
so.
perpetuate this, because I'm benefiting from it in whatever ways I'm benefiting from it. Screw you with your whatever rights you want.
Yeah. Interesting.
And, yeah, there's just a lot. That's the thought-provokingness.
There's a lot of thought-provokingness in this game in general. From, like, deep male bravado kind of thing that I have to do is because we do what we must because we can. It's like we must conquer the world.
Might makes right. Whatever.
What science does. There's a lot of deepness in this game.
Yeah, and I was relating those three corrupted cores at the end. Like, you've got the one that's like, I must go to space. I'm gonna conquer everything. There's the one that's like, I kept picturing him as Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And he's like, little lady, just let me.
I got you. He's like from Drake. He's like
I'm the strong man.
Drake from Uncharted, basically. He's just like.
And then there's the third one that's basically just mansplaining random facts to you that may or may not be true.
Yeah, no, they really
it's
nailed
just like,
that part.
did you know? Blah 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 blah. And
if
just
you
will not stop talking.
If you hold on to that, it'll talk for a long
they
time.
Put a lot.
I was too anxious to like listen to all the dialogue there. I should go back and.
Yeah, maybe next time. But yeah, all of those I guess archetypes, of a certain type of masculinity or just toxic behavior in any relationship, whatever gender you are, of like, my needs are the only needs that matter. Everyone else is like an NPC in my life.
Yeah, and in terms of that, I kind of wanted to move on to one of our theories or my theories or something I read online and combine a couple of things. Is that based on this toxic relationship it's not necessarily a toxic relationship between society and patriarchy and women in society, but more of like an actual relationship, like a blood relationship. So I don't know if you guys have heard this one. I told John this yesterday.
I haven't looked up any of these online.
If you look around in the 50s, you find the trophy case talks about them being in Idaho. So this facility is somewhere underneath Idaho, Nebraska area, right?
Nebraska's not really
close enough.
No.
I was about to ask, does Idaho border Nebraska?
No, it doesn't.
No.
There's a state between those that I actually come from.
Oh, Wyoming.
That is like the second biggest
Wyoming is
in
also
the
like pretty
contiguous.
big.
Yeah, it's in the Midwest, Nebraska.
There's Montana up there too.
So,
Colorado.
those flyover states.
Anyway, the facility might be under
it
all
looks
those
like
states
it
too.
looks like it's under all the because it's huge, right? So they have a lot of potato jokes and a lot of like news clippings that are like Idaho, like best potato-based science in Idaho, whatever. And then when you're walking,
notice that.
When you're walking through the science experiment like fair that they had for kids,
bring your
you can
kids
see
to
a
work
sign.
day.
Exactly, it says "Bring your daughter to work day," and it also says this is a science experiment made from the kids that came to work. And one of the science experiments says "Buy Shell."
What?
One of the potatoes.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Okay.
What?
Yeah. So the theory is that Caroline is Shell's mother, and brought her to work one day, and she stayed as a test subject.
Why adopted? Right?
That's how GLaDOS knows you're adopted.
It
You
could
actually
be.
are adopted, but
It could be an adopted thing, but she doesn't have to be
okay.
adopted. But it could be why GLaDOS makes jokes about your parentage, because in there she knows about it somehow, even before she realizes she's Caroline, right? So her being Caroline is pretty well established. The Shell being her daughter is the theory part, but there is a poster that says "Buy Shell" in there.
But she could be any employee's daughter.
She could be any employee's daughter. And Caroline could just know that.
Yes. She's an employee's
daughter. But it is very interesting to think about.
That's why at the end I think that when she deletes Caroline, she doesn't delete Caroline, because at the end of the game, dear listener, GLaDOS is like, I found Caroline when I was looking through my files, and then she goes like, Caroline deleted, and I don't have her anymore. So blah blah blah. So she like really makes this whole show of like, I don't have that empathetic thing in me anymore, right? That love. I deleted that. However, I think that she's like white fanging her. She's being like,
What
"Go
do you mean
on,
by white fanging
go
her?
on, get out of here,
Yeah.
you wolf." She's like throwing rocks at her, basically saying like, "Leave the
Oh.
facility."
White Fang is a book by Jack London where
Yeah.
somebody outcasts a wolf.
I was thinking,
throwing
isn't
things.
it also a drink? White
Oh, maybe.
Oh, White Russian.
White Russian, but maybe also, but it's from the book where like
But no, yeah,
a
Jack
man
London.
befriends a wolf, and at the end, he needs to let the wolf go so he can like be
its
himself.
wild
Yeah,
self.
Are
exactly.
you sure that's not Call of the Wild?
No, that's
No.
Call of Wild is
He wrote a lot
another
of
book by
books.
Yeah,
Jack
yeah.
London.
Yeah.
No, I know they're both by Jack London, but I've read White Fang, and White Fang ends with him being civilized. Call of the Wild is
But does he
civilization
try to-
to non-civilization. White Fang is non-civilization to civilization.
Does he try?
Does he try to-
He
like,
tries to get rid of
Yeah,
him,
he
but
tries
he
to get
doesn't
rid-
actually mean it.
Yeah.
I think like halfway through.
I'm pretty sure it's White Fang.
I have not read it since 4th grade.
I'm pretty sure.
so-
We'll correct this in the.
I
I
read it
did
in
a
like
report on Jack London.
I read
once.
it in 10th grade.
We'll correct it
so-
in the notes, but I'm pretty
But
sure
yeah,
it's
I
White
haven't read.
Fang. But the idea is that GLaDOS is making like being mean to Caroline on purpose,
Yeah.
so that she'll leave and not be sad that she's leaving. But GLaDOS knows that this is my daughter. If I tell her about this, she'll want to stay. So I need to be mean and make her leave. Right?
Interesting.
Well,
yeah.
I think the one key bit of supporting evidence for what you're saying right now is the fact that we get the companion cube,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
We have
And,
the very
and the one
end-
with the heart.
the one with the that's the like the companion
Yeah.
cube. Like,
The original.
if GLaDOS didn't care about us at all, why'd she give us our teddy bear?
Yeah.
Right, the thing that she thinks
Good
we love
point,
more
good
than anything
point.
else in the world.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea if she does totally delete her and she just gets to be an emotionless,
Robot.
immortal,
And I mean,
whatever.
she might still have those urges because it's like a prime directive coded in her from how they because what's his name Cave Johnson says we're going to transport your consciousness into a robot, so even if they like delete that part of empathy, that consciousness is still in there somehow, right?
Ghost in
Yeah.
the Machine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the beauty of interpretation, we can both be. Right.
Yeah.
Until Portal 3 comes out.
Ooh.
And we get answers.
Drum roll.
All right, so we're getting to the end here, so we're gonna do the thing that we usually do when we have the end of a series, which is we talk about our Rosebud Thorns, our Roselia, Ferrothorn, Badu,
We rate it.
right? So we rate it. So the things that we like, things that we didn't like, and things we want to see more of.
But
Y'all
before we do
obsessed
this,
with Pokemon,
yeah,
I guess.
always.
Yes, a little bit. So
I guess that's
not gonna
okay.
lie.
No
so
judgment.
But before we do that, Amelia said she had a thing about ratings that we were going to wait to talk about to the other episode.
Man, I
she said
hate
she don't
ratings.
like ratings.
Yeah, I don't rate.
You don't like ratings, but you put a rating in
I
here.
did in the end. I felt peer pressured to put a rating,
Good.
and it's not that I've never. So actually, there are, I think, exactly 10 books that I have ever rated on Goodreads back when I used to use Goodreads.
Mhm.
Mostly just use Goodreads to track what I've read and what I want to read, and I never rate anything, and Goodreads is annoyed about it because that's like its whole
It's like,
its
you
whole
forgot to rate this. Did you read this?
infrastructural
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I only rate books when I absolutely want to read them again and love them.
Yeah,
And that's very rare.
I don't like believe in ratings like from a philosophical core of my being, but I think it's just something that we can. It's something we can use in this show to like
quantify,
demonstrate how.
Yeah,
like,
but
things,
I
different
question the
things, right?
entire validity and value of quantifying how much you like something.
Yeah, so I'll say these are subjective based on how we perceive this game.
Yeah,
But it's still like
it's still a number.
it's still a number, but I think it's like an anchor that we can use to like later on if we're doing some sort of like the best of or something, we can always go back and maybe anchor ourselves on this.
Well, and that's why. So I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I love taxonomies. I am a taxonomist. I really enjoy
Are
creating.
rankings a type of taxonomy?
Rankings are a type
Not
of taxonomy.
taxidermist, just
Yeah. So
Are
taxonomies
I mean, although sure,
are the act of breaking things up and segmenting them for analysis.
But with names, right?
No, numbers
it
can
come with
taxonomize
names?
things too. Because if we
Well,
say
I mean,
these are
you
the
can just-
8s, these are the 7s,
you can
these
just
are
put
the
it- that's
6s.
just a name.
Numbers can be names
Numbers
now.
Yeah,
can
it
be
is.
taxonomies.
Yeah.
And what taxonomization does, and this is going to be pixel of deep depth here, right, is it allows for synchronic creation of diachronic entities, which is a very complicated way of saying, like, it allows us to take things that exist spanning across time, like all video games that we've played, that we have no way to think about them simultaneously all at once, and turn them into something that we can think of on a more simultaneous level
and it's
in the
not
moment.
perfect,
It's not perfect.
but it's the way to.
I was gonna say, like, that seems.
So it allows
like,
us to be like, well, we played 100 games. We can't possibly rethink about all 100 games in this moment, but we could think about them in terms
we've
of numbers.
extracted
Yeah.
this number
And we
from
can
our experience.
Put them into
Yep.
there. And so I think taxonomies are really useful as long as, like you say, we admit that they are flawed, subjective, frequently, or at least
It's all pretend.
less objective. It's pretend for a purpose.
Right. Well, it's about grouping, right?
Yeah.
Guess I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Because this whole thing seems like, well, yeah, you can say that you're doing that, but no.
But we gain more out of
enough.
doing it than
Yeah.
out of not doing it.
It's an anchor that we can come back to, right?
And I guess
that we wouldn't have.
I would rather force myself to write the review. Like, I don't want to just give it a star.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean,
you can do both, I
what
guess.
we've been doing this whole time is like we've been writing the review this whole time, right? And we're gonna get the score at the end.
You know,
So
this,
true.
This reminds me of something like what John was just saying. You know, it seems like this is really about grouping, right?
Yeah.
Well, the human memory is based around grouping. I remember they did this. Gosh, this is a long time ago. I saw this in like a documentary on TV. They got a savant and then they got like non-savant people, and they would read them a giant list of terms and see how many of them they could remember. And what they would do is they would ask them like, was this on the list? Yes or no? Was this on the list? And
Memory experiments.
your typical person would get tripped up on categories because if the list was like chocolate, candy, marshmallow, if you asked someone was the word sweet on the list, they would usually say yes, even though it wasn't.
Because they had
Pre-taxonomized
association.
Yeah,
it,
because
or-
they remembered like
Interesting.
that's what united all these words. However, the savant said no because he would actually just remember
Discrete them.
every single item
Discretize them?
individually.
Discretize.
Is that a word?
It is.
Interesting. So yes, we will be
Interesting.
rating stuff.
Incidentally, I looked up Wifang, and I do think that does happen in the novel. It's just like a very small bit of it that I
It is.
totally
It is.
forgot.
It is.
Yeah,
a small
because
bit
it's
of
the
yeah.
white fanged is like
It's a scene.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It was a saying.
It's a popular culture verb
Yeah.
now. White fanging something is like making it go away when you don't really want it to go away.
It's
But
one
you
of
need
those-
it
I've actually not ever heard that before.
One of
to. Well, you know,
those.
it's for the young at heart.
Quoting Jack London, like the young at heart do.
Brandon,
Yeah,
Brandon and I are
that-
the same age now. So
That novel published in 1906.
100 years and some.
it was published before Aperture Science, so that's a long time.
I'm sure it's because high school teachers read it with their high school students.
Perhaps, yeah.
That's how the Gen Z picks up on it.
So for Roselia, Ferrothorn, Verdu, we will be rating stuff, and then we will be doing this.
I have relented.
So for me, for Roselia was character development for mostly in 2, but 1 makes sense now because of what happens in 2.
Yep.
And then the voice acting is an honorable mention because it's amazing.
I'll just throw my Rosalia into the voice acting too.
Yep, amazing.
Where we'll go.
Oh, yeah.
My Ferrothorn is, if I had to pick just one thing, which was hard, it would be the testing field, the test chambers. For me, that was still just, I could not shake that. It never felt fun in 1, and there was no goal inside. Now looking back, I think we'll get to this later, but I have something more to say about that in our sign off here. And then I still feel like the puzzles are a little obtuse. And Badu, the lore and story, the context, it was so much cooler the second time around to see why we're doing things. The environmental puzzles made more sense, even if they were dark. And I believe, John, you said this as well. I want more lore.
More lore.
Like I would read about this. I wish they came out with something about this.
The easiest way that I think
Probably
they
some
could have
fan
done.
fiction.
There's
Probably.
gotta be fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
The easiest way that I think they could have done this is in the 1950 rooms. There were a lot of TVs and screens, and they could have had one that you could turn on, and it would narrate to you.
Which is something that I asked for in the first one. In this one, they put more stuff, but
Right.
I wish there was even more because it's so good.
Which is like an optional cutscene, but I would have
Yeah.
liked optional.
For my score, for my score for the entire series, I was gonna put this at like a 5, but since I played 2 and I like this a lot, I like 2. I like 1 more because of 2. Now I'm scoring the entire series as a 6 out of 10.
Nice.
We'll move on to, and then we'll talk about this in a little bit. So we'll move on to Amelia. You're Roselia. I think that worked well.
What did I write down?
The uniqueness of it all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like my friend that recommended this to me in whatever, 2007, 8, 9, whenever, he called it a very me game. And I guess he was right. Because its quirkiness, the relative simplicity, like some of the big
simplicity of
cavernous
the-
things are
The
like...
premise, right? You're stuck.
But yeah,
Get out.
the concept,
Yeah.
plus all the character and quirky the writing, all of that. And I mean, uniqueness is kind of like a cop-out answer to say, but basically everything.
No, but it's part
Almost
of it.
everything
because
about it.
No other game does portal-based platforming, really, to
Yeah.
this extent, right? So it is like the game itself, right? The portals. You said your Ferrothorn was, you remember?
No.
The cutscenes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I should have remembered that. Yeah. Blah. The cutscenes.
You said blah cutscenes. Yep. And then Badoo, we talked about this beforehand.
I couldn't really think of one because I like it so much as it is. So I guess just more of what it is, like Portal 3.
Yeah, 3. Portal 3.
But don't put so many cutscenes in it.
Okay, less cutscenes. There it is. She wants less cutscenes.
Is that a thing you can want more of?
Yeah, you want more of no cutscenes.
More no cutscenes, more puzzles.
That's convoluted,
Must
but okay.
test.
Must
really is.
test.
GLaDOS.
But she said it's a very me game, right?
Yeah.
It's puzzling, it's deep,
It's monstrous.
and it's fun to hang out with.
So, and then you said if I must give it a score, probably an 8.5.
Yeah, I would rate it really high, and
For a game with no improvements to be made, you're giving it
Yeah,
8.5?
that's what I thought was interesting.
Wow.
Because you said there's nothing here that I want to see more of, but 8.5.
I don't know. Ratings are dumb. That's all I can say.
I love it.
I mean, I'm trying to fit in here by
Fair
giving
enough.
it a rating.
Trying to conform.
I'm recognizing, like, the frustrating flaws, if we must call them that.
So what about, like,
But-
less dark rooms?
Sure. I don't think that would make, like, a huge difference
Maybe
to
above it
my
from a 9.
opinion of it. Yeah, I don't know. I guess why did I not
Is it
rate
possible for a
10?
game like Portal to get a 10? Does the game play
No.
itself?
Part of
has
this
a
Part of this comes down
theory
to
about
like maybe imposter syndrome, not feeling qualified to rate a game at all because I've played like this many games,
But you played this one, and this is just, like we talked about, subjective.
and
It's based on your
so
feeling.
I feel like, and like when I rate a book, I'm comparing it to all the books I've ever read. When I rate a game, like I can't compare it to all the games, so I'm sure there are probably better games.
Maybe not. I don't think there are better games that use portals.
Yeah,
But it's interesting because she's saying my lack of depth in basically reading
the
or playing in the genre
Yeah.
prevents me from giving anything a 10 until I have
Which is fair.
gone through. I think that's really cool.
I think I
actually
need-
as a standpoint.
yeah, and now I'm thinking how I would rate like the Horizon games. I love a lot, and they don't feel like games to me, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like they feel
They're interactive stories.
I don't know, they feel so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
'Cause
fair. I think that's a fair
I really
point.
love Portal, and some of it is pretty immersive. Like you're stuck in this cavernous chamber. The frustration of that immersion is real, but it's also still just a game. Like it's a crossword puzzle. And
Fair enough.
And I know that, and
That was
it
that
is
was
what
great.
it is.
What a great justification for that score. Like honestly, that was great.
Thank you.
Yes. Like I started skeptical, and then I was like, you know what? No, she got me. That's good. Yeah. Brandon, Roselia,
I don't remember what I put.
you said I think the game knows what it is.
Yes. I do think it has a very clear sense of identity.
That's good.
And so,
Mhm.
yes.
Your Ferrothorn was my controls refusing to cooperate in the first game, so
Oh,
some
God.
control frustration there.
That's
That
the
was-
equivalent of an Amazon review that says my package didn't arrive on time. But alright.
That's not a
I
review of
see
the
your
game.
point,
Do
but I
you
also
have a
see
problem?
what he's trying to say.
The
It
game,
should be
like-
working all the time.
Did you ever try with keyboard and mouse?
I didn't. I don't
Oh,
play
come
keyboard
on.
and mouse. No, Portal 1 would just not cooperate with me, and Portal 2 ran way better.
Yeah, I think
it's
it's
weird.
partly that. Part of it is like it should really be working with all controllers. But
It really should.
Should schmud.
My package should arrive on time. I've ordered from Amazon. They have deals and contracts with the U.S. Postal Service. Why is this package
I
not
want you
getting
to
here?
okay.
I will remind
2
you.
stars on this
Anyway.
table.
I will remind you one more time that I know where you live.
Okay, so Badoo, you said like me, you thought the games were on for a little too long.
Yes.
And then you said something interesting, like more signposting, right? We talked about this.
Yeah, I wish I knew how long the room was going to be when I went into the room.
Yeah.
Because I hate thinking that I've reached the end of the room, only to then find that there's more. And maybe that's because, as you said, Phil, the rooms feel like tests. So finding out that I've got like 20 more math problems on the test sucks. Whereas like if I'm playing, just go back to it again, Resident Evil 4. and I find out there's another room with more zombies to shoot, that's just like, oh my gosh, I've got
Bonus.
more cake in
Yeah.
the fridge? This is awesome.
I think
that's
that,
just a mindset thing, because for me, like,
Yeah.
oh, there's more to this room?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you gotta use all these parts, starred clues in the crossword puzzle to, like, solve some other puzzle, and it's
I
like,
would argue the
bonus!
signposting thing is also part of what we talked about. Like, sometimes you'll walk into a room and it's literally the Hoover Dam, and you don't even know where the exit is. So I want a little more indication of, like, this is where you want to get to.
And they give you that at the
I can
beginning of
see
the
that.
game because Wheatley flies in and goes,
Yes.
this way, come
Yeah.
over here. And then they remove that.
Yes.
So somebody on the
But
developer
Wheatley
end.
was annoying.
Oh, yeah.
So better
I didn't think so.
signposting that's
I didn't
not
get my
annoying.
rating.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, your rating.
I, for one, had 7 enjoyment units out of 10.
That's
Enjoyment units.
7 official thing we don't know what it does units
like it.
out of 10.
It's enjoyment units. I mean, you just feel it. You don't immediately
Auto-tell
drink something and have a number.
Auto tell it. John.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7. I think 7 is fair. It's a very clean game. It's a very fun game. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I played it. So it has to be above 5 because I think everything below 5 in my taxonomy is things I didn't enjoy.
Portal 1 was below 5 for me. Same thing there. Until I played Portal 2 and I was like,
Wow.
okay, I'm bumping this up.
Portal 1 by itself might be just a solid 5.
So if you had to
At the
rate
end of
them
it, I was like,
separately,
Now,
Portal 1 is like a...
I don't think I can rate Portal 1 as I had the mindset before
His
Portal
brain
2.
has fused
I
it.
can't. So like Portal 1 for me before I played Portal 2 was like a 4.
He's
But now it's like, but now it's a
incapable of
5.
plastic thought.
Now it's a 5.
Okay, it was a 4.
Yeah,
And Portal 2 by itself,
a 7.
so
Yeah.
averagey
Yeah.
and whatnot.
John said Rosilio is the humor and commentary, a
Yeah.
delight. Top tier post structural critique of the American corporate ethos because John likes to show off with big words. Ferrothorn, the spaces between levels need improved or eliminated, right? So like the
Yeah, I would have been
darkness,
happier
the
with the entire setup. The girders. Well, I
Girders.
didn't mind the girders when they were
Girders.
part of a puzzle level. Because the puzzle levels were well lit, they were well organized, and they had signposts in the form of, like, you kind of knew where you needed to go. It was between puzzle levels in the 1950s.
So dark.
So dark, and so cavernous, and I just got lost, and I would have been happier if we just went back to the elevator thing.
Yeah.
Where we finish a level, elevator, next level, next level.
But the elevators all broke in the whatever post-apocalypse.
They could have made, like, a one quick walking
I know,
path.
not all of them
Yeah.
broke.
Yeah.
So obviously there were.
Yeah, it didn't have to be an
elevators.
elevator. I just didn't like the pseudo portal solve puzzle between the real puzzles.
Right.
That
Although that's what y'all liked in Portal 1 was like the outside of
No,
the
no,
test chamber.
yeah, but I like the outside of the test chamber levels. I don't like the fact that between them it is pitch black and I have to walk on a catwalk.
and
Right.
I liked the reason I liked them in Portal 1 is because they gave me the lore and ludic connections I was missing.
Mm-hmm.
And this game proved that you can do those, especially with Cage, it proved that you could do those in the levels
Yeah.
without any issue.
And then that was your Badoo, right? It was the lore. You want more lore.
More lore.
Which we all do.
I would never, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
which is
never
something
enough.
it's going to be a theme for.
I used to be
pretty
a
much,
World
yeah.
of Warcraft player, so I'm okay with pages and pages.
But yeah, I
and
love
pages
lore is the
of
best.
lore.
So maybe if we play Half-Life, we can get some more lore on this. But I might just read about it honestly.
Fun.
So that was what we had for you guys today and for ourselves. So we had.
No, you're gonna play the rest of Still Alive on your guitar, right?
Oh
Oh,
yeah, we'll figure that out.
Find out.
Yeah. So
No, and then are you gonna learn the song from the end credits of this one? Because it's
Yeah,
not as catchy.
not as
not as
catchy.
catchy.
not as
But-
catchy.
Depends on what the chords are. I'm not that good.
I liked it, and then those lyrics also reinforced the
Yeah, just
like,
play Wonderwall.
toxic relationship
Yeah,
going
right.
on. It felt a lot like
Anyway.
a breakup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've suffered with this and fought with you for so long. Now I just want you out of my life.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I it's interesting. I think we agree that like Portal 2 is better than Portal, but to different degrees.
'Cause there's more
right?
of
'Cause there's
it.
more of it. Feels like the second part of a game, perhaps. It could be, right? Several things are made better. Some frustration is still there, but in a good and bad way.
But I think you
Right.
still need Portal 1.
You still need Portal 1, but here actually, look, I have something to say
Yeah.
about that. So I would say it is a more enjoyable experience it was for like 3 of us. For Amelia, maybe equal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put in here, which is interesting. So I have an official, I'm using air quotes, listener. Professor's player recommendation is if you like puzzles and puzzle games, play this.
Play this.
Play Portal and play Portal 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
It won't hurt you.
It will not.
It's awesome.
And if you don't, I would say maybe skip it until it's on a large sale. Like Brandon got it for like $2, or you can get it for $8 both games, right? But here's my recommendation: if you're gonna play the Portal series, I might recommend starting with 2.
No.
What?
Yeah. So just based on how I would have enjoyed Portal 1 way more if I played Portal 2.
I want to form that relationship with GLaDOS, though.
I
need that
I
history
think you
with
could
her.
start with 2, and it's not gonna. None
I
of it's
mean,
gonna hurt you.
okay, it's not gonna hurt you again, but like I think that I would have enjoyed 1 if I played 2 first.
My advice to players who want to play it but
I
don't
think that could
necessarily like
work.
puzzle games is just watch a walkthrough. Because I think this is a game where you actually don't
and then
lose a
play
lot
Portal
by
2.
not playing through if you're not, if you're not, especially with Portal 1. If you
you're
watch a
not a puzzle
walkthrough of
nerd.
Portal 1,
Yeah.
because it's not like...
If you don't like the feeling of being stuck for like more than 5 minutes, then don't be afraid to look stuff up.
Don't be afraid
I
to
did
look
that.
stuff up. Do a
Especially
walkthrough.
in the second one when you're like walking into a room you don't even know where the exit is.
Because it's not like some games. Like some games, if you don't play the early games, then you don't actually develop the skills, like the button skills, and they're high dexterity games. Like Mario's that way. Somebody I play with always wants to skip to the very last level of 8, and I'm like, dude, if you do that, you're not going to have the
fail.
skills to be at 8
Yeah.
because you have to play through 1 through 4.
But yeah, Portal's not
teaching
like
mechanism.
that.
Portal's
There's
not like
like
that,
2
yeah.
buttons you need to
There's
know.
like 2 buttons you need to know. You could watch through Portal 1, be perfectly happy starting Portal 2.
Yeah, I
could
agree with
see
that.
that.
I'm saying like if you want to play both, and you're not tied to the fact of must play in order, which I understand is a thing. I'd say starting with Portal 2, which is like a rare thing. It's a rare thing that I think the sequel is better, and it might be better to start with the sequel. But I'm not saying it's the only way. That's just my.
You would treat Portal 1 as
recommendation.
a prelogue.
Yeah,
Yep.
Portal 1 to me is it's a prologue. Prologue. Yeah.
Prologue.
So interesting. So we have different opinions here, but I don't think any of you are like, no, don't do that. It's more like, well, you might still want to start with Portal 1.
It could be fine,
yeah.
and especially if you've got someone to play with, the co-op, you don't need anything else to just play the co-op and have a ton of fun doing it.
And
For sure.
And the co-op is technically the epilogue, so that would be starting it after Portal 2.
I
Being
guess.
weird about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
If you're
and
being
then
weird
it'll
about it,
be
which I am, John, basically.
Quentin Tarantino movie at that point.
True. So yeah, that's it. We're closing the portal on Portal.
Oh, that's the episode title. There it is right there.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for making Portal homework for me, so I could actually finish Portal 2.
Beautiful.
Is that
Yeah.
fun?
This is
Yeah.
part of our jobs here.
Homework
actually.
is fun.
Yeah. It's okay.
I say with all seriousness.
So moving on to our next, we're going to be moving on to our next game in 2 weeks. It is perhaps like the opposite of Portal in the sense that it is a game that has basically no puzzles and it's heavily story focused. But the entire game is a puzzle because it is a murder mystery that you need to solve in game, and if you don't finish the game. Our next series will be Persona 4: The Golden, the 2012 JRPG by Atlas, which is now part of Sega. So join us in a couple of weeks for our preview of Persona 4. Why we're playing that and not Persona 5, which came out in 2016.
Which I've played. That's one of the games I played.
And Persona 5 is amazing.
finished it, too.
Amelia and I both can attest.
Yeah.
And we'll also be talking about my fangirldom over the Persona series, and that'll come out naturally. And more stuff. So, but for now, I'm Professor Phil Chavot. He's Professor Brendan West. He's Professor John Adams. And for the final time, for now, she's Professor Amelia Chesley. And together, we're professors who play video games. See y'all in a couple weeks for Persona 4.
Thank you.
Bye.
This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture science. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead. But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science
I'm off the
gets
tempo there.
done.
I'm really off.
I sped up.